Good morning, champions of common sense. Hey, speaking of champions, we have a new college champion in football we'll talk about in just a little bit. I think the entire Trump team was there last night in Miami watching Indiana win. Congrats to them. We'll get to that in just a second. Big trouble for dumb Don Lemon. Remember, he was the pseudo-journalist, terrorist, agitator who was not only we're learning now, one of the organizers of the group of agitators that stormed that church in St. Paul. He's in some big trouble with an act that I had never even heard of. But Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General, she's heard of it. She's talking about bringing that against him. Going back to Miami for a second, there's something really disturbing going on in the city of Miami Beach. The mayor there is sending out police officers to question people who are criticizing him online. I don't want any part of that. I don't care who the guy is. We're not Europe. We don't want that happening here. And you may have noticed there's a big push for the SAVE Act. Of course, the act that has already passed the House of Representatives to secure our elections, require voter ID, clean up the voter rolls, all that good stuff. There are 8 senators, GOP senators, who are opposing it now. And they're being named. And we're going to name them too. Anyway, we'll get to all that stuff. Welcome to it. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Wicked Radio live stream and then the replay on X and on YouTube and on Facebook, audio podcast too. Thanks for the follows and subscribes and downloads and all that good stuff, no matter where you're listening or watching. Appreciate you. Let's get to something fun and started off last night, the national championship game. Congratulations, the University of Indiana Hoosiers. Traditionally a basketball powerhouse. We all know that, Bob Knight and all that stuff. This is their first national championship in football. It's taken that long. What a turnaround, though. And you might have seen this. I watched this entire game. I was interested in it. President Trump was there with what looked like his entire family. Not only that, but you might have seen this on X. Marco Rubio was there. Who else was there? Byron Donalds, the guy that Trump wants to be governor of Florida next. Who else was there? Rick Scott was there. I think all of them were there, including his family. And this was the response from the crowd when they flashed for the one and only time to the press box, to the luxury box where the president was with full security detail. Listen to the reaction of the crowd.
We hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright.
Did they show him again because the crowd loved it so much? No. That was the one and only time they showed him, but that's okay. Still an amazing response. And it's a great national treasure of an event, the National College Football Game. So congratulations to Indiana. Let's get to what's going on now. Let's get to some news. We all know the big story from yesterday coming out of the weekend was the paid, organized communist agitators. That's what they are. That's what I'll always refer to them as. That stormed a church. Worshippers. A Sunday church service in St. Paul, Minnesota. The city's church, I think it's called. Oh, we know that Don Lemon was there documenting it, former CNN anchor. Now we know from witnesses and some officials and from some churchgoers that Don Lemon was not only there documenting the thing. How does a so-called journalist wind up there in the first place? He was organizing it and egging on the agitators. Well, it didn't take too long to find this out, but he honestly thought, this is why I call him Dumb Don Lemon, not just because of what he is. He is dumb. But he also is so dumb that he actually thinks that doing that, you'll have the national narrative and the support of the country. And this is perfect because doesn't it kind of summarize exactly what a lot of the anchors, a lot of the news people that aren't there anymore, Jim Acosta's of the world, Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow, they still think that they will have the support of most of the country when you do this kind of a thing. Not realizing first, in legal terms, he's in some big trouble, but also the reaction from this, even among your more left-leaning liberal friends. Everyone hates this except the extremists. Here's Harmeet Dillon. We've talked about her before. Did an interview with Benny Johnson, podcaster. Great follow, by the way. Does some great interviews. She spoke to Benny yesterday, talking about Don Lemon specifically, and they're on to him. But she gets to something here that's really interesting. I had never heard of the Klan Act. I don't know if maybe you did. I had never followed. We've all heard of the Klan, obviously, so it's got to be something to crack down on bad behavior. This is what they're aiming to throw at Don Lemon specifically. Here's the first part of the interview. When she mentions the Klan Act, we'll get into that a little bit deeper, but they saw crimes right away. This is why he's so stupid. He obviously is using this for national attention as a failed ex-anchor. We know that. I don't think he fully realized what kind of trouble he's in. I don't think
We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. In other cases, the Biden DOJ used the Klan Act conspiracy charges tacked on to the FACE Act in the case of protests outside abortion clinics to bring.
I had to rewind it too the first time I heard it. The Klan Act? Never actually heard of that. For a deeper dive, later on in the interview, she explains exactly what that is. We can listen to it so we don't have to look it up. Here she is explaining what the Klan Act is. Now keep in mind, she's talking about not just the rest of those agitators, you know, the Marxists, the communists that stormed that church during service. Don Lemon specifically, as if he thought he was going to get away with this. They're coming out. We all wanted action, right? We all said it yesterday online. You better arrest somebody for this. This is unacceptable. I think somebody heard us if they're throwing this at him. Listen to this.
Klan Act is one of the most important federal civil rights statutes, and it goes back to the time when President Lincoln emancipated the slaves, and yet the southern states, Dixiecrats mainly, were refusing to give them equal rights. And in fact, that you had sheriffs and you had law enforcement harassing the newly freed slaves. So the Klan Act is a law that makes it illegal to terrorize citizens, to violate their civil rights, to get together and conspire to violate the civil rights. It is often used against law enforcement, but is now used against others as well.
You think Don Lemon thought something called the Klan Act would be coming his way today? Again, I go back to, here's the most important takeaway. We all said this when this, even honestly, if you ask them and they give you an honest answer, even your most liberal friends or coworkers or family members would say, yeah, it's not right to storm into a church at all. That's not right. Dumb Don Lemon actually thought he had the narrative of the country. He actually thought he would get most support from this, and obviously thought the attention would be worth it. Do you think he ever thought something called the Klan Act would be coming his way? Yeah, I don't think so. They're dead serious about him specifically taking him out on this. Obviously the other Marxist agitators, but this guy specifically. What an idiot. All right, something else. National championship game was in Miami, as we just said last night. Let's go back to Miami area for a quick second. This is a video that's going viral that I really hate. I really do. Because we've all seen the videos of what's happening in Europe, Canada to a certain extent. People literally are facing penalties and sometimes jail time for social media posts, memes, posts on X, things even on like Facebook, cracking down on people's First Amendment rights, which clearly they don't have in other countries. Do we have it here, though? Let's go to Miami Beach for a second from this video. And this is a lady that gets a visit from the Miami Beach Police Department. Two cops show up, and they bring out their phones, and they bring up her specific post, which apparently, trying to get the background of the story, was criticizing the Miami Beach mayor. Mayor of Miami Beach is named Stephen Minor. It's a nonpartisan position, but apparently he's a Republican by nature, and he kind of campaigned on the law and order mayor from Miami Beach. I don't care. I don't care that he's a Republican. I don't care that he's law and order. I don't care that he's nonpartisan. I don't care what he is. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. And I don't care that the lady who got visited by these two cops who you're about to hear is, from what I can gather, pretty far left and pretty far liberal when they're talking about the things she was posting. I don't care who they are, where it is, or what she's posting. I don't want this. This has to stop. If you're offended by something somebody posts online, you can't have politicians sending out a goon squad to shake him down like this. Good for her that she didn't talk, but this is, I don't like any bit of this. Again, going viral. This is from Miami Beach, I believe over the weekend.
Make sure it's you. We're not sure.
Okay.
Is that your account?
I refuse to answer questions without my lawyer present. So I really don't know how to answer that question either
well,
way.
like I said, you're not
This
going
is
to
freedom
jail.
of speech. This is America, right?
And
A veteran.
And I agree with you 100%.
Okay. All
We're
right.
just trying to see if it's you, because if we're not talking to the right person, we want to go see who the right person
Okay,
is.
how can I help you?
So pretty much it's just a statement that was made as far as,
Verbatim, it says the guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians tried to shut down a theater for showing a movie that hurt his feelings and refuses to stand up for the LGBTQ community in any way. even leave the room when they vote and on related matters. Wants you to know that you are all welcome. Clown face, clown face, clown face. 3 days ago.
So you don't know if it was you?
I'm not going to answer whether that's me or not.
Okay.
The concerning part.
And I can hear you asking the question now. It's like, well, if she's making threats, what's the big deal? You shouldn't have to be. No. She wasn't making threats. And I think what we could hear there in them reading her post was she was, criticizing the mayor for not supporting LGBT, not supporting the rights of Palestine, whatever the issue is, right? This ain't it. This isn't it. Like I said, I don't care that the guy is nonpartisan or a former Republican or calls himself a law and order mayor. I don't care who this is. Even though I don't agree with this lady and her posts, whatever it is, I may not agree with her in person. I don't want politicians in our country sending out goon squad cops to question them because of a post. A knock on the door, hello, is this your post? Did you say this on? No. And if they do what she did, in the heat of the moment. Don't talk to them. That's not right. And you may be quite, what's the big deal? They just want to make sure that she's not making threats. Okay, if you've paid attention to this issue in Europe, specifically the UK, also a little bit in Canada during the COVID years, this is exactly how it started, how they started to breach people's rights more and more. This is exactly how it started. They went door to door and they asked, and then all of a sudden they moved it through Parliament and they started to crack down on, quote unquote, here we go again, hate speech. Here's the problem with hate speech. They get to decide what hate speech is. And all of a sudden, very quickly and easily, they turn hate speech into something that happens to criticize a political opponent. And then all of a sudden you have people going to jail. Oh, come on, Bill. That's just an exaggeration. That doesn't happen. Look up on your own time how many people have been sent to jail in the UK for what's deemed offensive Facebook posts or posts on X. Look how often it happens. And I'm telling you, as I sit here today, that video from Miami Beach that's going viral, that's exactly how that started. Don't want it. Don't care that this is a law and order mayor or calls himself conservative or whatever the hell it is. I don't care. Nothing about that is America first. Even if I disagree with the lady in Miami Beach. Nope. Don't want it. Not here. Don't let it creep in. And that's exactly how it creeps in. So I hope there's an update to that story in that video. That's disturbing as hell. You don't show up at somebody's door short of making a threat because you're offended by what they posted. That's ridiculous. I'll tell you what else is ridiculous. Segueing here. The SAVE Act. We all know about the SAVE Act now. They passed it months ago. The House of Representatives has passed it. What's it all about? Secures elections. Gets rid of mail-in ballots, except in extreme circumstances like, troops serving overseas. Cleans up the voter rolls. Most importantly, voter ID. Who in the world would be against that? Who could possibly oppose that? 8 senators, GOP senators, oppose that. And now we know exactly who they are. Now everything comes to the top of the swamp. Everything surfaces eventually, and you got to hold them accountable. You may have noticed a big push recently, though, everywhere. Lot of very influential people, namely, mostly, Elon Musk, pushing for passage of the SAVE Act. To get this done, it may go to what Trump is talking about, to blow up the filibuster so you can ignore these 8 corrupt assholes and just pass the SAVE Act. Problem is, that means the Democrats have it down the road too, but they're going to come after you anyway. Main important thing is to pass the SAVE Act. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, specifically, here's a recent Elon Musk post about this where he says, unfortunately, there are 8 Republican senators who are opposing passing the SAVE Act. Well, you may have asked yourself, who are they? Now we know. Here you go. Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rand Paul from Kentucky. Gee, Rand. Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. Tom Tillis in North Carolina. Todd Young from Indiana. Chuck Grassley from Iowa. And Jerry Moran from Kansas. You know who the 8 are. You know who's opposing this. And you have to ask yourself the most simple, basic question of all. Why would someone be against securing our elections, even if it does involve blowing up the filibuster? Here's your answer. Because they are outright, flat out, complete and total crooks. Every one of them that we just mentioned right there. And some of the Republican GOP House members that voted against this as well, because they're crooks. You know who explained this exactly well just this morning? Early this morning, I've talked about him before, and he's becoming one of my favorite politicians of all time. Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Dadgum. He's the guy that says, oh, I'm so dadgum upset about those different things. But he's great because he puts it in common sense terms, and apparently so far, Tim Burchett from Tennessee cannot be bought. I love his early morning videos where he comes out of the barn at home in Tennessee, and he just talks about exactly what he's thinking with all this. Here's a guy you can listen to. It's kind of early and he's still kind of sleepy, but he explains exactly what's behind this and why anybody in his own party would be against this over in the Senate side of things.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. I'm sitting here this morning and I was thinking about why in the world have we not passed the dadgum SAVE Act? And yes, I am wearing the same sweatshirt I wore yesterday. Who am I trying to impress? SAVE Act, my buddy Chip Roy sponsored it, and a bunch of us co-sponsored it in the House. Senator Mike Lee and Rick Scott have it in the Senate. And it really does three things. It says that you have to be an American citizen to vote. Dadgummit, who'd be against that? I'll tell you who. The machine politics, the gutless Republicans, and the hard left Marxist Democrats. Because they don't want us to succeed. They want status quo. Another thing it says is the states, when you register, you have to show some kind of ID that verifies you're an American citizen, a passport, a birth certificate, or something. You have to show a dadgum ID to buy a six-pack.
You got to show a dadgum ID to buy a six-pack in this country. Dadgum. What I love is, and this is kind of a new thing, maybe it's because of the social media age. I don't know. Maybe it's just because there are enough America First representatives in Congress now where they're willing, like Tim Burchett is, to call out his colleagues. All right, over in the Senate, and he's in the House, but still, to call them out directly. And because of that, again, now we know exactly who is opposing this. And now you should know, we should all know, and shame on us if we don't, why they're opposing it. Because they're crooked as hell, and they want to stay in power. Again, the 8 opposing the SAVE Act: Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Todd Young of Indiana, Chuck Grassley of Iowa, and Jerry Moran of Kansas. Crooks. Absolute crooks, every single one of them. And there's a reason why they're opposing this, is because they don't want to let go of power, and don't let the Republican or Democrat label fool you. They are one big uniparty, that they want to stay in power and campaign on that. That's all there is. All right. Big takeaway. Sometimes they do hear us. You hear us with this. Make your voices heard. Call every one of those offices. I've already made my calls. But also, they do hear us. I know we all want more action. I know we want more crooks in jail. I know we want people like Don Lemon, in handcuffs. But as you heard Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General, say just yesterday on Benny Johnson's show, they are taking action and looking into it. Wheels of justice do move slowly, but they do hear us. Don't ever sit there and think that, well, my voice will never be heard. Of course it does, if you join with some other common sense voices. That's the big takeaway. All right, it's Tuesday. You got stuff to do, so do I, and I'm out of material. Let's move on. The audio podcast is going to be downloaded here, your favorite platform, wherever you like to get those. And thank you so much for the subscriptions, the subscribes on those, and the replay, obviously, on X and on YouTube and on Facebook. Make it a wicked awesome Tuesday. I'll talk to you tomorrow.